The first sound was glass, a wine glass tipping, a sharp shatter, and then silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from calm, the kind that comes from judgment. In the middle of the pristine high-end hotel restaurant, a teenage girl stood frozen. Her cheeks burned red as she stared down at the glass she had accidentally knocked from the table while nervously placing cutlery. She looked no older than 16, her apron slightly too big, sleeves rolled unevenly. Her hands trembled as she scrambled to pick up the pieces. "Unbelievable!" snapped a voice nearby. The maitre d', Dorian, tall, sleek, and full of himself, stood with his arms crossed and a smirk that didn't hide behind professionalism. His voice carried across the velvet booths and marble flooring like a dagger wrapped in silk. "You've been here 3 days, and this is the third time," he said coldly. "Are you planning to break the full set?" She mumbled, "I'm sorry." Dorian waved to a busboy. "No, don't help her. Let her learn. Maybe next time she'll think twice before acting like a bull in a crystal shop." A few guests chuckled under their breath. The girl, Lena, turned even redder. She crouched and began collecting shards, one by one, her eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. Behind her, a couple in designer jackets whispered. A woman in pearls leaned to her date and said, "You'd think they'd hire someone who at least looked competent." Lena blinked hard and swallowed. Nobody helped. Nobody spoke up. And Dorian? He smirked and walked away, murmuring under his breath, "Hospitality isn't charity." At a corner table, dressed in jeans and a soft flannel shirt, a man slowly looked up from his plate of roasted vegetables. He didn't react right away. He didn't raise his voice. He simply watched. Eyes clear, focused, and if anyone had paid attention, they would have recognized Keanu Reeves, quietly dining alone, watching everything, and planning to say nothing until it mattered most. Lena stood behind the service counter now, holding a damp cloth and rubbing a single spot on a wine glass that was already spotless. Her hand shook just slightly, but she kept her head down, hoping if she moved slowly enough, she could disappear. The restaurant bustled again. No one spoke to her. Dorian hadn't looked her way since the incident, but everyone else had, with eyes that said, "You're in the way." A waiter passed by and muttered under his breath, "You really know how to make an entrance." Lena didn't respond. She was used to that voice now, the way it sounded like a joke to everyone else, but felt like a knife to her. Across the dining room, Keanu watched quietly as another server walked briskly past Lena and nudged the tray in her hand, hard enough to jostle it. "Oops," the server smirked. "Careful, porcelain princess." A few staff members laughed. Lena didn't flinch. She just gripped the tray tighter and moved toward the back kitchen. Keanu placed his napkin on the table and stood. No one noticed. Yet, in the kitchen, Dorian stood near the prep line, lecturing 2 junior waiters. "If you want to work at places like this," he said, gesturing toward the dining room, "you need polish, not pity. Guests pay to forget people like her exist." He nodded toward the swinging door where Lena had just walked through. "That girl is a walking Yelp disaster." The young waiters nodded nervously, unsure whether they were agreeing with truth or just surviving the moment. Back in the dining room, Keanu approached the maitre d' stand. The hostess looked up, startled. "Sir, is everything all right?" Keanu offered a soft smile. "Could I speak with the manager?" She blinked. "Of course. Is there something wrong?" "No," he said gently, "but there's something not quite right." In the kitchen, Lena leaned against the dish station, trying to breathe. Her eyes were dry now, but her heart still thudded in her chest like it was trying to escape. A soft voice behind her said, "Are you all right?" She turned. Keanu Reeves stood in the doorway. Just a man. Calm, present, not in a rush, not asking for attention. Just there. I'm fine," Lena stammered, clearly recognizing him. "I saw what happened," he said. She looked away, embarrassed. "It's okay. That's just how it is here." Keanu paused, then stepped closer. Maybe that's a problem. Dorian returned to the front just in time to spot the hostess, pale and flustered, whispering urgently into the phone. He frowned. "What's going on?" She glanced up. He asked to speak to the manager. "Who?" She opened her mouth. And then Keanu walked back into the dining room. Calm, silent, composed. Dorian's frown deepened as the actor made his way toward his table and sat again, slowly folding his napkin in his lap like nothing had happened. It wasn't a dramatic moment. There was no music, no announcement, but the air changed because now everyone had noticed him. And Dorian, who fed off control, had just losses. In the kitchen, Lena leaned against a metal counter, breath catching in her throat. It wasn't just that Keanu Reeves had spoken to her. It was how he'd spoken, like she mattered. No cameras, no attention, just kindness. A dishwasher passed her a towel without a word. That was new. Dorian adjusted his tie and walked briskly toward Keanu's table, wearing his signature politician smile. "Mr. Reeves," he said, leaning in slightly. "I trust everything is to your liking." Keanu looked up. Calm, steady. "Food's good," he said. "Service could use some work." Dorian's face froze for half a beat. "Of course. We're always improving," he said, smiling tighter now. "Can I ask if something was off with your experience?" Keanu didn't blink. "I watched a young girl get humiliated in front of a room full of strangers. Not corrected, not trained, just mocked." Dorian's smile stayed, but his eyes hardened. "Ah, yes, our new trainee. She's still adjusting. It's a learning curve." "She didn't mess up the glass," Keanu said. "It was an accident." "Well, sure, but in this industry." "She's 16, Keanu said, his voice lowering but gaining weight. "She's trying. She's showing up. You don't teach people by belittling them. You break them." A silence followed, not just at the table. Around it, other guests were listening now. A woman from 2 booths over whispered to her husband, "Did you hear what he said?" Keanu leaned in slightly. "I've worked in restaurants. I've cleaned bathrooms. I know what it's like to be invisible. But the difference between a good leader and a bad one." Dorian tried to keep his grin intact. Keanu finished softly. "A good leader lifts people. A bad one stands on their backs." Dorian straightened, forced a chuckle, and said, "Well, thank you for your insights." Keanu nodded. "Don't thank me," he said. "Just decide what kind of place you want this to be." Lena returned to the floor with a small tray of lemon water and napkins, a minor task, but one that had always felt heavier than it looked. Until now, something had changed. People weren't looking through her anymore. They were looking at her differently. Tyrell, the line cook who used to pretend she didn't exist, gave her a small nod as she passed. Michelle, one of the senior servers, didn't sneer when she asked for help. She quietly handed her the backup linen, without being asked. Even the snickering stopped. No more underbreath insults. No more eye rolls. Not because they feared punishment, but because someone had watched and cared. In the back corner, Dorian stood near the manager's podium, arms crossed, jaw clenched. His authority, once absolute, now felt shaky. He could feel the atmosphere slipping, like someone had flipped a mirror toward his actions. And now everyone saw. And worst of all, he knew he couldn't spin it. Because Keanu Reeves hadn't stormed in, hadn't yelled. He had simply spoken clearly and been heard. In the kitchen, 2 dishwashers whispered while stacking trays. "You see what he said to Dorian?" "Bro," the whole floor heard it. "I didn't even know that girl's name before today." "It's Lena." "Yeah, Lena. She's the reason that guy stood up." At table 6, a middle-aged couple who had witnessed the entire thing pulled aside their server. "Could you have that young woman, Lena, refill our water?" the wife asked. The server raised a brow. "She's a trainee." "We know," the husband said. "We just want to tell her something." Lena approached timidly, water pitcher in hand. Her shoulders were still curled in slight, but her eyes were more focused. The wife smiled. "We just want to say you handled yourself with a lot of grace today." Lena blinked. "Oh, thank you." The husband leaned in. "Not many people could have stayed standing with all that pressure. You should be proud." Lena opened her mouth, then closed it. Then, for the first time in hours, she smiled. From his table, Keanu watched her walk away, not triumphant, just steady, like someone who realized the room no longer dictated her worth. He didn't smile outwardly, but his eyes softened. Dorian's name echoed over the staff intercom. "Dorian, please report to the office." It wasn't a suggestion. Heads turned. A few staff members exchanged glances. Someone quietly mouthed, "Oh." Dorian smoothed his vest, adjusted his cufflinks, and walked toward the back like a man heading into a room he still believed he owned. The office was small, neat, tucked behind the wine cellar, and insulated from the clatter of service. Inside sat Mr. Halbier, the regional director of the luxury restaurant group that owned this location. He was mid-50s, slick but fair, the kind of man who spoke softly, and only once. Next to him sat the assistant GM, tablet open, video paused mid-frame. The frame? Keanu Reeves, standing beside Lena, hand lightly on the service counter, staring down Dorian. Mr. Halbier didn't look up when Dorian entered. He just said, "What are we building here, Dorian?" Dorian hesitated. "Sir, if this is about the incident." "It's not an incident," Halbier interrupted. "It's a pattern, one I've been hearing about long before a global celebrity walked in and pointed it out." Dorian blinked. "I didn't know who he was." "That's not the problem," Halbier said. "The problem is, you only care when it's someone you do recognize." Silence. Halbier tapped the tablet, playing the clip again. Only a few seconds of Keanu saying, "You don't teach people by belittling them. You break them." He paused it, looked up. "Is that how we develop staff now? Break them?" Dorian tried to muster his charm. "With respect, sir, this is being blown out of... Do you know how many reposts this has? How many thousands of people are in the comments saying this is exactly why they quit hospitality?" Dorian looked at the floor. Halbier folded his hands. "You've been running this floor like a showroom. Flashy, cold, and replaceable." He leaned forward. "This isn't a suspension, Dorian. You're being transferred. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere without press. Somewhere where you can think about what kind of leader you want to be." Dorian's lips parted, stunned. "But this is my restaurant." "No," Halbier said gently. "It never was. It belongs to the people who work it." Outside the office, staff began whispering. "Did you hear? They're moving him." "Seriously?" "Yeah. Someone said it came from up top. Like corporate. In the dish room, Lena set down a stack of glasses without dropping one. Michelle leaned in. "You okay?" Lena nodded. "I think I'm gonna be." The rain had started. A soft tapping on the windows, like the sky was exhaling. Inside the restaurant, things felt lighter. No one said it aloud, but everyone noticed that Dorian hadn't returned. In his place, the assistant GM, Marta, had stepped onto the floor. She moved differently. Observant, measured. She didn't bark. She asked, and when she passed Lena polishing a water carafe, she simply said, "You're doing great," and kept walking. It wasn't fanfare. It was respect. And for the first time, it felt earned, not performed. Keanu finished the last sip of his coffee and stood slowly, placing his napkin gently across his empty plate. Lena, nervous but determined, approached him one last time. I just want to say thank you." Keanu turned to her, and that now famous half-smile, gentle and grounded, touched his face. "I didn't do anything. You said something when no one else would." He paused. "Sometimes all it takes is being the first one to speak," he said. "After that, the silence loses power." She nodded. Still, it meant everything. Keanu looked toward the hostess stand. Marta was there now, reviewing something on a clipboard. He approached her. "Before I go," he said, pulling a folded envelope from his jacket, "I'd like to leave this for your staff." Marta raised an eyebrow, but took it. "What is it?" Keanu offered only. "Something they'll understand when the time's right." Then he tipped his head and left. No spotlight, no security escort, just the quiet footsteps of a man who never needed attention to make a room change. Later that evening, after close, the envelope was opened. Inside was a printed sheet, simple and clear. At the top, it read, House rules, inspired by today. Never mistake silence for weakness. Leadership is earned through empathy, not rank. The quietest person in the room, maybe the most powerful. We rise by lifting others. Kindness is not policy, it's culture. Beneath it, a handwritten note. Keep watching out for each other. That's what makes a place worth coming back to. KR, Marta posted the rules near the schedule board. The next morning, someone had underlined rule number 4 in pink highlighter. Lena saw it, smiled, and started her shift not as the nervous trainee, but as someone who finally knew she belonged. 3 weeks later, the dining room hummed with its usual elegance, but something beneath the polish had changed. The laughter from staff came more often. The silence wasn't fearful anymore. The whispers, once sharp with judgment, now carried something softer. Lena, in her fitted black vest and rolled-up sleeves, moved through the restaurant with a quiet confidence. No more slouching. No more flinching when a tray clinked. She smiled at guests, checked water levels instinctively, balanced plates on one hand without hesitation. And people noticed. A new trainee arrived that Friday. Emilio, 16, shy, his uniform still creased from the packaging. He fumbled with his tie, dropped a spoon on the prep table, and muttered, "I'm not good at this." Lena caught it. She stepped beside him, gently adjusted the spoon, and whispered, "You don't have to be good. You just have to care." Emilio blinked. "That's not what the last place told me." She smiled. "Then forget the last place." Later that shift, Marta gathered the team before service. "We've got a big party coming in tonight," she said. "And Emilio here is going to be shadowing. So, Lena," she turned, "can you show him how it's done?" Lena froze for just a second, then nodded. "I've got him." As they prepared the tables, Emilio asked, "Were you always as confident?" Lena chuckled. "I dropped a wine glass on a guest shoe my first week." "No way." "Yup. Almost cried. Thought they were going to fire me." "What happened?" She paused, then said, "Someone spoke up, reminded everyone I wasn't just a mistake." She didn't say his name. She didn't have to. That night, the guests arrived. Emilio stood beside Lena, watching closely, imitated her posture, her tone, her warmth. Halfway through the evening, he whispered, "You make it look easy." Lena smiled. "It's not easy. It's earned." And in the back of her mind, she could still hear it. Keanu's voice. All it takes is being the first one to speak. It was a quiet Monday afternoon, the kind of lull where the kitchen sizzled at half volume, and the dining room echoed with soft silverware taps and low conversation. Lena was polishing cutlery, out of habit more than necessity, when a tall man in a gray blazer walked in. Not flashy, not loud, but purposeful. He walked past the hostess, straight to Marta at the maitre d' stand. "Good afternoon," he said. "I'm looking for Lena Ortiz." Marta blinked. "May I ask who's asking?" He reached into his coat and handed over a clean card. "Michael Langston, senior producer, Horizon Network, Human Stories Division." 5 minutes later, Lena stood in the back office, staring at the man like he might vanish if she blinked. "I don't understand," she said. Michael smiled. "We run a series, small stories, big echoes. We focus on people who change their world not with fame, but with presence." She blushed. I'm not that person." He opened a folder on his lap. Inside were printed headlines, screen grabs, and a photo of Lena standing next to Emilio under the House Rules board. "Someone disagrees." Michael continued. "We're working on a segment called The Echo of One Voice." Mr. Reeves was asked to participate. He declined the interview. Lena looked up, surprised. "Really?" Michael nodded. "He told us. I already said what needed saying. The story doesn't belong to me anymore." He looked at her pointedly. "He said it belongs to you." That night, Lena sat in the break room, holding the watch again. Emilio sat across from her, chewing a protein bar between questions. "You gonna do it?" She hesitated. "It's a lot." He nodded. "Yeah, but so was that first tray of water you carried. She laughed softly, then reached for a pen and started writing. 2 days later, in a quiet studio space lined with warm light and wooden floors, Lena sat in front of a camera for the first time. No makeup crew, no flash, just her and her voice. I didn't change the world, she said, but one person changed mine and made me realize that maybe I could pass that forward. Behind her, out of frame, the pocket watch sat on the table, ticking gently. The staff meeting was scheduled after close, the kind no one really wanted to stay for. Most sat in the banquet room half distracted, arms crossed, eyes on the exit. But Lena sat near the front, clutching the silver pocket watch in one hand, tucked subtly into her blazer. Marta stood up front. Before we start, someone has something to say. There were murmurs. Then Lena rose. The room shifted. I won't keep you long, she began, voice clear but nervous. But I want to share something. She took a breath. You all remember when Keanu Reeves came in. That got everyone's attention. Some chuckled softly. A few nodded. She held up the envelope. He left something behind. Not for the restaurant. Not for PR. For me. She opened it gently, revealing the watch, catching the light just slightly. I used to think I had to earn respect by being perfect, that I couldn't speak up until I got everything right. She looked around the room. But someone reminded me that kindness is a form of leadership, and silence, when used right, can be louder than shouting. She stepped toward the corkboard near the staff entrance. Underneath the laminated house rules sheet, the one inspired by Keanu, she pinned something new, a handwritten edition. Rule number 6, if you rise, bring someone with you. She stepped back. I didn't write that, she said. It was engraved on this watch, but it's been with me ever since. A long pause. Then Marta nodded. It stays. One by one, people stood, not in applause, not in spectacle, just in agreement. That night, after everyone left, Emilio lingered by the corkboard. Lena walked past and smiled. You'll speak one day, too, she said. He turned. I don't know what I'd say. She tapped the glass case of the watch. You'll know when it's time. In another city, days later, Keanu sat quietly at a small table in a bookstore cafe, sipping a single espresso. A stranger approached and said, I saw that story online, the one about the waitress. Keanu looked up, eyes steady. You really gave her a watch? He paused, smiled faintly. I gave her a moment, he said. The watch just made it harder to forget. It was a slow Wednesday afternoon, the kind that stretches long, with soft jazz echoing through polished glass and linen. Lena was polishing cutlery, out of habit more than necessity, when a tall man in a navy suit walked in. Not flashy, not loud, but purposeful. He walked past the hostess, straight to Marta at the maitre d' stand. Good afternoon, he said. I'm looking for Lena Ortiz. Marta blinked. May I ask who's asking? He reached into his coat and handed over a clean card. Michael Langston, senior producer, Horizon Network, Human Stories Division. 5 minutes later, Lena stood in the back office, staring at the man like he might vanish if she blinked. I don't understand, she said. Michael smiled. We run a series, Small Stories, Big Echoes. We focus on people who change their world not with fame, but with presence. She blushed. I'm not that person. He opened a folder on his lap. Inside were printed headlines, screen grabs, and a photo of Lena standing next to Emilio under the House Rules board. Someone disagrees. Michael continued. We're working on a segment called The Echo of One Voice. Mr. Reeves was asked to participate. He declined the interview. Lena looked up, surprised. Really? Michael nodded. He told us. I already said what needed saying. The story doesn't belong to me anymore. He looked at her pointedly. He said it belongs to you. That night, Lena sat in the break room, holding the watch again. Emilio sat across from her, chewing a protein bar between questions. You gonna do it? She hesitated. It's a lot. He nodded. Yeah, but so was that first tray of water you carried. She laughed softly, then reached for a pen and started writing. 2 days later, In a quiet studio space lined with warm light and wooden floors, Lena sat in front of the camera for the first time. No makeup crew, no flash, just her and her voice. I didn't change the world, she said, but one person changed mine and made me realize that maybe I could pass that forward. Behind her, out of frame, the pocket watch sat on the table, ticking gently. The segment aired on a Sunday night, just 12 minutes long. No dramatic music, no celebrity commentary, just a still frame of Lena in her apron, eyes sincere, her voice calm. Kindness doesn't need a camera, but sometimes it helps other people see it. It aired once on television, but online, it exploded. Within 48 hours, the video had 2.3 million views. Clips on TikTok went viral. Screenshots flooded Instagram. The caption that trended, hashtag the girl with the watch. At the restaurant, business picked up, but not because of the hype. People came in quietly, looking for something real. They left notes. They tipped well. One man came alone and ordered only coffee. When Lena brought it, he slid a napkin across the table that read, "I wish someone like you had been around when I was that age." And then came the letter, delivered by mail. No return address, just her name, written in handwriting she hadn't seen since she was 11. She stared at it for nearly an hour before opening it. Inside, a folded sheet. At the top, "Lena, you probably don't want to hear from me. I don't blame you. I wasn't there when you needed someone to stand up for you. I was trying to stay afloat, and I left you behind. I see that now. But I saw you. I saw you on my screen, telling the world how a stranger's kindness changed everything. And I cried, because you're stronger than I ever was. Because you became the person I couldn't be for you. I'm proud of you, Lena. And I'm sorry. Mom." Her hands trembled. She folded the letter slowly. Tears welled, but not from pain. Not this time. From release. Later that evening, Lena stood outside the restaurant as the sun dropped behind the skyline. She pulled out the pocket watch and held it up to the fading light. Tick, tick, tick. Each second felt clearer, stronger, brighter. And in the corner of her mind, she heard Keanu's voice again. "You just have to be the first one to speak." The restaurant buzzed quietly under soft evening light. A line of new trainees huddled near the server station. Nervous chatter, uneven neckties, trembling hands. Just like she once was. Lena watched from the far side of the dining room. She wore the same uniform, same shoes, same apron, but she stood differently now. Posture calm. "Eyes sure." Marta approached, whispering, "Nervous kids. Remind you of anyone." Lena smiled. "A few someones." Marta handed her a clipboard. "You're doing their orientation today." Lena blinked. "Me? You earned it." Later, in the back hallway, after hours, the last of the trainees, Nico, a soft-voiced 17-year-old with shaky hands, stood by the lockers, shoulders sagging. "I don't know if I can do this," he murmured, avoiding eye contact. Lena stepped beside him, leaned against the wall, and said, "You don't have to get it perfect." He sighed. "I just don't want to be the one people laugh at." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the silver watch. It caught the light gently. "I didn't get this because I was perfect," she said. "I got it because someone believed I'd learn how to lift people." She opened Nico's hand and placed the watch in his palm. "Now it's yours, just until you find someone who needs it more." He looked up, stunned. "Are you serious?" Lena nodded. "Just don't let it collect dust." He laughed through a caught breath. "I won't." That night, Lena walked home with empty hands and a full heart. At a stoplight, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Just watched your segment again. You passed it on, didn't you? Kay." Lena smiled. No fanfare. No signature. Just a quiet acknowledgement from the man who started it all. She texted back. "It's still ticking." End arrow the end. Thanks for watching. If the story touched you, let us know. Speech balloon, have you ever been lifted by someone who saw something in you before you did? Busts in silhouette, who in your life passed you the watch? And have you passed it on? Share your moment. Because kindness doesn't end with the person who gave it. It begins with the one who carries it forward.